I already filmed this video, but it was entirely out of focus, so here we go again. What's up guys? My name is Ella and today I'm going to be talking about summer book recommendations. So I wanted to make a video about summer book recommendations because I know that that's the biggest time that a lot of people read and they always want books with summery vibes to them. So I was going through my Goodreads. I realized I haven't read a lot of summery vibe books. I read a lot more like small town fall vibe books. Not what we're going for today. So I thought I would recommend 5 summer books that I have read, and then I would also do 5 books that I'm hoping to read this summer that I'm expecting to have a summery vibe. So that's what we're gonna be doing. You'll get 10 book recommendations, but I've only read 5 of them. That's the plan. So let's get into it. The first book is Ever After Always by Chloe Lisi. This is the 3rd book in the Bergman Brothers series, but it is about the oldest Bergman sister. The Bergman Brothers series is a series of books with 7 siblings, 5 brothers, 2 sisters, and each of them gets a different romance. This book, like I said, is about Freya, who's the oldest Bergman sister, and her husband Aidan. This book is a marriage in trouble romance, which isn't my favorite, like, trope. However, I really thought this one was done really well. I feel like a lot of times with marriage and trouble romance, there's like cheating or something that I personally find like not super forgivable. But this book, Aidan is dealing with a lot of anxiety because the couple decided to have a baby and he had a rough upbringing. He didn't really have a father figure. And so he feels the need to overcompensate when it comes to their potential child. And so the couple, they're trying to have a baby, but then he starts distancing himself out of fear and out of anxiety, and he's not opening up to Freya. And Freya is getting very frustrated with him and doesn't feel seen or heard anymore. And so their marriage is going through a bit of a rough patch. I thought that this was a really interesting way to do a marriage in trouble romance because I think that these are issues that a lot of couples face. And I could see both it's dual point of view, so I could see both sides and I understood where both characters were coming from. I understood why Aidan pulled away and I understood why Freya was upset. So I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed this book. Strongly recommend even if marriage or trouble isn't your thing. Where this comes into the summary vibes is that where this book takes place and where Aidan and Freya are kind of forced to be in the same, they're forced to sleep in the same room on a family vacation because Freya's parents are celebrating like their 35th wedding anniversary or something like that, and they want all the kids to go on this vacation together, and Aidan included. So Freya and Aidan don't want Freya's parents to know that they are going through marital issues and ruin their vacation, so they pretend everything's fine, and eventually they remember why they fell in love with each other. They go to counseling. It's a really, really good marriage and trouble romance, and I really, really enjoyed it. Really loved both of these characters, felt for both of them. Really loved the Hawaii setting and the family dynamic, and I strongly recommend if you are looking for a book that takes place at a beach and has anxiety representation, especially because I really enjoyed that in this book. So, strongly recommend. Really loved this book. I read it last month and I talked about it in my all the books I read so far this year video, which is the only other video on my channel as of now. The next book is Heartbones by Colleen Hoover. This book is probably, in my opinion, one of Colleen Hoover's 2 most underrated books, the other one being Confess. This book is about Bea, who her parents are no longer together, and her mom was an addict and they lived in a trailer, and Bea had a really rough upbringing and she doesn't speak to her father really at all anymore. So even though her father has lots of money and lives in this gorgeous beach town. And so Bea's mom dies at the very, very first chapter. And Bea just graduated high school and she needs a place to stay until she goes to college in the fall. She reaches out to her dad and says, hey, mom says that I should come live with you for the summer because she doesn't want to tell her dad that her mom died. And she goes, lives in this beach town, and meets the next door neighbor Samson, who, like most Colleen Hoover characters, has a lot of secrets. So this book is about that summer before you go to college, like that summer after you graduate high school, before you go to college, and there's a friend group dynamic, it's on a beach, there's a lot of bonfires, but like all Colleen Hoover books, there is a lot of emotional aspects to it. I do strongly recommend, and especially if you are already a fan of Colleen Hoover and don't know which Colleen Hoover book you should pick up next, I think Heartbones is so underrated. The next book is Meet Me in Paradise by Libby Hubscher. This book, make sure to check trigger warnings. It's about this girl named Marin, and she has always been the caretaker for her younger sister. Both their parents died, and she is steady and stable and has had the same job and has lived in the same town. She doesn't travel, she doesn't really enjoy her 20s, and this really bothers her sister, who is a free spirit and all over the place and loves to travel, and she's a photographer. And so her sister is like, Marin, you never go anywhere, you never do anything, you've spent your whole life taking care of me. It's time for us to go on a sister trip together and go somewhere far away and enjoy ourselves for a week. And Marin begrudgingly agrees because she'll do anything for her sister, and her sister never shows up at the airport. But who does show up is a grumpy billionaire. So he takes her to the island. He happens to be going to the same island. Takes her to the island. He knows a lot of the locals. So I loved the locals, like the local characters, the people that are local to the island in this book. I thought they really added something to the setting of the book. And they, again, check trigger warnings because the book quickly gets very emotional, and it's not a fluffy romance. It's not what the cover would lead you to suggest. But it is, if you were looking for a more emotional read, if you're looking for a good cry that also combines like summery vibes, because we can cry in the summer too. If you're looking to cry in the summer, this is the book for you. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I read it on my beach vacation last year, and I really enjoyed it, even if it wasn't what I was expecting. The next book I also read on my summer vacation last year, and it was Float Plan by Trish Dollar. This book is about Anna, who recently lost her fiance. Check trigger warnings for how he died. But this book is about Anna. She just lost her fiance. She thought he was the love of her life, and her fiance owned this boat. In Anna's grief, she goes to his boat, kind of steals it a little bit from, because it's not in her name, but she goes to take this boat, and she's going to take this cruising trip that her fiance always talked about taking. She's gonna do it, and she's gonna take the exact route that he was gonna take, but she doesn't actually know how to sail a boat. She doesn't know anything about it because her fiance always did that. So she has to hire Kian to help her sail the boat, and Kian is Irish, I think, and he's a professional sailor, and I absolutely loved him. This book is very hopeful, and it's about how, you know, you get more than one chance at love. Everybody gets more than one chance at love. There is someone out there for everyone, even those of us who feel like there's something in our past that makes us unlovable or that we'll never be able to love again. So I thought this was a very hopeful book. You get experiences on so many different islands, and then also like on a boat sailing. Very good summer read. 4 out of 5 stars. Really loved it. Strongly recommend, but I feel like nobody really talks about it. So I'm gonna talk about it. The last book is Dangerous Girls by Abigail Hawes. I have very mixed feelings about this book. The only reason that I am recommending it is because I loaned it to 2 friends, and both of those 2 friends really, really loved it. So even though I didn't love it, they did. So you can read and decide for yourself. This book is a thriller, and it is about this group of teenagers who go to a private school, and they're very well off, and they go on this vacation one summer, and one of them winds up dead, and her best friend, who is at the school on a scholarship, is accused of murdering her. And so there's a trial, and there's a police investigation, and this whole time it's the point of view of the girl who was accused, trying to figure out, run through her night, that night that her friend died, and try to figure out, like, who else could have killed her because it wasn't her. So it's very good. Like, for the most part, the ending was disappointing to me, but my 2 friends that loved it, absolutely loved the ending. So read it, decide for yourself. But there is a thriller that I feel like, again, not a lot of people talk about. I read this so many years ago, so I might be a little fuzzy on the details, but I do recommend if you're looking for a summer thriller. So that was all the books that I have read that I recommend, like the summary recommendations. Now I'm going to talk about the books that I hope to read at some point this summer. The first book I bought for my trip to Cancun next week, and it is Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This book is compared a lot to Love in Other Words. I absolutely adore Love in Other Words, so I picked it up. I believe it's about this girl named Percy, and she spent a lot of summers at this lake house with her friend Sam, and they were like falling in love, and then something happened, and now she's going back to the town because I think Sam's mom died, so she hasn't talked to Sam since, like, whatever happened. I don't know what happened yet. Which is very, very similar to Love in Other Words. So that's what I'm getting from, everybody's talking about this book right now. It is this author's debut, and it's doing really, really well. I'm really happy for Carly. So yeah, that's the book that I'm going to read, one of the books that I'm going to read while I go to Cancun. The other one is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Clearly I got it from Target. I hate the Target stickers. Anyway, this book is about the children of like a famous rock star, and they're throwing this party, like the whole book takes place over the span of one night, and they're throwing this party for all their friends in Malibu, and the party ends up catching on fire, I think, and so like the book starts, I think, with the fire, and then you have to go backtrack throughout the night to see what happened and to see how the fire started. I don't have the best luck with Taylor Jenkins Reid books, but this one is the most interesting concept to me thus far, so I'm hoping that I really enjoy this one, and I'll let you know what I think, because I'm also going to read this one in Cancun. The next book that I want to read is The Roughest Draft by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Broca. Austin Sigmund Broca. This book is compared to Beach Read a lot, which is my favorite romance ever. It is about these two characters who were co-authors on a really, really successful book, and then they had a falling out, but they still have one more book that they're supposed to co-write on their contract, so they're going to write this book in the same town that they wrote their last one, I guess, and I think it's like a Florida beach town. So, enemies to lovers, and I'm excited to read it. It doesn't have the best rating on Goodreads, and I've heard mixed reviews of it, but I kind of like anything that's connected to Beach Read or anything that's like suggested if you like Beach Read, I'm gonna read. So I will let you all know what I think. The next book I know virtually nothing about except for the fact that I like the cover, and it's One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searle. She wrote In 5 Years, and that book I know not a lot of people love, so I'm interested to see about this book. That being said, I love books that take place in Italy, and I'm hoping that this is a good summer read. I mean, it has the word summer in the title, so I'm excited to read that one. The last one is another book that has a lot of mixed reviews, and that's Shipped by Angie Hockman. Yep, Shipped by Angie Hockman. So I think it was Steph Bohr who was really, really disappointed in this book, and normally I really agree with a lot of her recommendations. However, one of my friends, who I always agree with a lot of her recommendations, loves this book. This book is about, I think, co-workers who are both up for the same promotion, and they go on this cruise together with their company, and it's enemies to lovers, and I think Grumpy Sunshine. I'm not totally sure, haven't read that much about it, but I want to give it a try to see if I agree more towards Steph, more towards my friend, or if I have a completely different opinion than both of them. I don't know what opinion there could be other than liking it or not liking it, but maybe I'll discover one, maybe I'll have one. So I don't know much about that book because I haven't read it and I haven't really looked into many synopses for it, but I'm hoping to read it at some point this summer. So that's it. Those are the 5 books, the 5 summary books that I'm recommending to you, and the 5 summary books that I'm hoping to read at some point in the next 3-ish months that I will let you know what I think. So that's all I have for you today. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you feel so inclined, and I will see you when I see you. Bye, guys.